Now I've heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do ya? It goes like this, the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Your faith was strong, but you need the fruit. You saw her begging on the roof, her beauty and the moonlight overthrew ya. She tied you to her kitchen chair. She broke your throat and she cut your hair. And from your lips she drew the hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
I've been here before. I've seen this room and I've walked this floor. I used to live alone before I knew ya.
Baសូមជម្រាបសួរជនរួមជាតិក៏ដូចជាប្រិយមិត្តក្នុងនិងក្រៅប្រទេសហើយសូមជម្រាបសួរលោកយាយលោកតាពុកម៉ែពូមីងបងប្អូននៅសហគមន៍ខ្មែរនៅទីក្រុង Long Beach រដ្ឋ California បាទថ្ងៃនេះវេទិកាផ្សព្វផ្សាយសហគមន៍បានវិលមកសារជាថ្មីហើយយើងបាននាំយកនៅតាក់ទងទៅនឹងសិភៅមួយដែលមានចំណងជើងថាExiled from the killing field of Cambodia to California and back បាទហើយសភៅនេះដូចអ្វីដែលខ្ញុំបង្ហាញនៅលើ screen បាទអញ្ចឹងយើងក៏បានអញ្ជើញអ្នកនិពន្ធសភៅនឹងផ្ទាល់ដើម្បីយកអញ្ជើញគាត់ធ្វើការបកស្រាយក៏ដូចជាក្នុងការណែនាំជូនទៅដល់ជនរួមជាតិក៏ដូចជាប្រិយមិត្តនិងពុកម៉ែពូមីងបងប្អូនបានស្គាល់ថាអ្នកនិពន្ធឈ្មោះ Katya Cengel នឹងជាអ្នកណាហើយតើដើមចមអីដែលធ្វើឲ្យអ្នកនិពន្ធរូបនេះគាត់បានតាក់តែងចងក្រងសិភៅមួយក្បាលដោយអ្វីដែលខ្ញុំបានអានមិនអញ្ចឹងគឺខ្ញុំសូមអានម្ដងទៀតExiled from the killing field of Cambodia to California and back បាទអញ្ចឹងមុននឹងយើងអញ្ជើញគាត់មកខ្ញុំសូមការអនុញ្ញាតដើម្បីអញ្ជើញ co-host របស់ខ្ញុំសម្រាប់ថ្ងៃនេះមានលោកគ្រូ Vith បាទអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំនឹងអញ្ជើញគាត់មកលើ screen បាទ បាទជំរាបសួរលោកគ្រូវិទ្យ
បាទ
បាទលោកគ្រូវិទ្យថ្ងៃនេះសុខសប្បាយទេ
សុខសប្បាយអរគុណច្រើនសូមអញ្ជើញ
បាទបាទសូមអរគុណលោកគ្រូវិទ្យដែលបានចូលរួមថ្ងៃនេះមិនមែនជាភ្ញៀវកិត្តិយសទេគឺជា co-host សម្រាប់កម្មវិធីនេះតែម្ដងបាទហើយយើងនឹងព្យាយាមដើម្បីសាកសួរទៅលើអ្នកនិពន្ធឈ្មោះ Katya Cengel អំពីសភៅដែលគាត់បានសរសេរតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងពលរដ្ឋខ្មែរយើងដែលរស់នៅសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកហើយត្រូវបានគេបញ្ជូនទៅស្រុកខ្មែរវិញបាទអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំសូមការអាជ្ញាដើម្បីអញ្ជើញ Katya Cengel ដើម្បីមកកាន់លើ screen របស់យើងបាទ
Hello, Katya.
Oh, thank you for having me here.
Okay, ជំរាបសួរ Katya Cengel. Yeah, today our program have a great pleasure to have you in our program in order to tell our community about your book. Also, we want to learn something about from you as well. So, okay, let me give the floor to Vith.
Okay, thank you, Lagru. Yes, hello. My name is Vith. I'm a co-host with Mr. Sanghak. I am a ex-wheelchair athlete. I also one of the immigrant back in '88. My family came here to California. I stayed for a little while in Kaidang. I even have a picture here. Hold on. I'd like to show you. This is me right here, and my brother. Yeah. So I am. I would like to thank Ms. Katya for coming on to our show, and we will have a great opportunity and honor to Q&A and the author that wrote about the deportation of my family to the motherland. So I would give the floor back to Mr. Sanghak.
Okay, Katya, could you just introduce yourself a little bit before we start our program, please?
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you for having me on the program today. And I'm a journalist and writer. I grew up in the Bay Area and now I live in the Central Coast. And I spent, trying to remember, it's been, Exiled came out in 2018. And I started reporting it though probably several years before that. And I spent a lot of time, most of my time in Long Beach for the book. And it was really following families dealing with deportation, Cambodian American families, but also telling the bigger picture about it. So I take a journalism perspective, I guess. And currently in the Central Coast, I teach journalism part-time at the university here. And then I do some human interest stories still, and then write books.
Let me translate. Let me interpret a little bit into Khmer language. បាទអ្នកស្រី Katya Cengel គាត់ជាបានន័យថាគាត់ជាអ្នកយកជាអ្នកសារព័ត៌មានទេបាទអានេះដើមចមរបស់គាត់បាទប៉ុន្តែដល់ដោយសារគាត់ធ្វើគេហៅថាធ្វើរឿងតាក់ទងទៅនឹងការបញ្ជូនជនជាតិខ្មែរយើងទៅកាន់ស្រុកខ្មែរវិញចឹងធ្វើឲ្យគាត់មានការចាប់អារម្មណ៍ចឹងហើយបានគាត់
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm sorry. Yeah, what inspired you to get involved with the Khmer deportation story? Since Mr. Sanghak frozen up, let's start with that first question.
Am I unmuted? How do I unmute? Can you
top left?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought I was muted. Yeah, while I was in high school in the Bay Area, actually, I think you pointed out the people I'm writing about are your generation. It's actually, I'm kind of the same generation. And so I had a friend who I knew she was Cambodian ethnicity, but I just considered her American. She spoke with a Bay Area accent, and, you know, she'd grown up there. And I wasn't really interested in much besides sports in high school. So I have to say I knew very little about Cambodia or anything like that. But I do remember in French class, we're supposed to bring in baby pictures. And that is when Davri said she didn't have any baby pictures. And everyone was kind of teasing her, like, what, were you an ugly baby or something? Everyone has a baby picture. And that's when we realized she had fled the genocide with her family when she was very young, and they lost everything. And so that was the first I kind of knew a little that Davri's story was different, but I still considered her American. And it was only later that she told me about some of her friends. She wasn't subject to deportation, but people were being deported. And I didn't understand because I knew they'd come as refugees. And so I thought, well, they're U.S. citizens, right? I didn't know how complicated the process was and such. And I thought, why is this happening? And so it was curiosity, and I was just baffled. And so I think that was actually what inspired me. And it was many years later that I continued on it, but it was back because of my friendship in high school, and then her telling me about something and not making sense to me that if people had come to the country as refugees and we welcomed them, why were we now sending them away? And so that's how I started getting into the topic.
Okay, thank you.
Katya, could you repeat your friend Cambodian lady name?
Davri.
Yeah,
So
I hope I'm saying it right.
you met her in Cambodia or in United States?
It was back in high school. So it was in the Bay Area, and she had come with her family when she was very young and grown up mostly in the Bay Area. Spoke exactly like I did, dressed like I did. So I really never thought much of her being anything but American until I heard later.
So Davi already deported back to Cambodia, right?
So she wasn't. Back when I was in high school, people weren't being deported yet. That's when I first kind of learned about the genocide and those things. And then later she started telling me about friends of hers who were being deported. But she herself was not subject. But because I knew her, I kind of was curious about how the community was being affected by that. And that was kind of what got me into the story.
Okay, let me provide briefly in Khmer. Yeah, actually, let me mute because the sound is not okay.
The question is, what inspired you to involve with the Khmer deportation story? I don't know, you heard that.
បាទសំណួរដែលលោកគ្រូវិទ្យគាត់សួរថាតើកត្តាអីដែលជំរុញឲ្យគាត់នឹងគេហៅថាសរសេររឿងរ៉ាវទាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងប្រជាជនខ្មែរយើងបាទហើយKatyaក៏គាត់បានលើកឡើងដែរថាកាលគាត់រៀននៅវិទ្យាល័យគាត់បានស្គាល់មិត្តភ័ក្តិជនជាតិខ្មែរម្នាក់ឈ្មោះDavi ហើយ Davi ហ្នឹងគាត់បានជម្រាបKatyaអំពីការដែលគាត់ឆ្លងកាត់នៅរបបបល្ល័យពូជសាសន៍ប៉ុលពតហើយគាត់បានមានឱកាសបានមករស់នៅប្រទេសទី3នៅលើទឹកដីឯនេះសមុទ្រសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកហើយគាត់ក៏បានដឹងឮថែមទៀតថាមានអ្នកដែលមានឱកាសដូចគាត់អញ្ចឹងប៉ុន្តែចុងក្រោយមកបែរទៅជាគេបញ្ជូនទៅស្រុកខ្មែរវិញគេហៅថា deportation ហ្នឹងបាទហើយធ្វើអញ្ចឹងធ្វើឲ្យគាត់ Katya ហ្នឹងគាត់មានការចាប់អារម្មណ៍តាក់ទងទៅលើបញ្ហាហ្នឹងបាទអញ្ចឹងសូមអរគុណបាទ
អរគុណលោក Okay, Miss Katya, next question is how many state and family participate in your book?
I focus mainly on 4 families in depth where I really follow, because for me, I wanted to tell the story about the deportations. I think a lot of people think it affects an individual, but it affects a family and a community. So I really wanted to tell the bigger picture, and also trace the history, how it goes from the genocide to resettlement to deportation, kind of the legacy of trauma in there. So I go in depth with about maybe 4 families, but I interviewed a number of other families in smaller parts. I tried to keep them connected, such as if I had a family facing deportation, I would find a friend of that person facing deportation who was already in Cambodia deported, and I would follow up with that person or a relative. So you kind of got the sense of connection with it.
Okay, let me interpret it into Khmer. បាទសំណួររបស់លោកគូវិតគាត់បានសួរទៅ Katya ថាតើ Katya ហ្នឹងគាត់បានធ្វើការតាក់ទងទៅនឹងពីបញ្ហារឿងរ៉ាវដែលគាត់សរសេរសភៅហ្នឹងប្រហែលរដ្ឋដែរហើយប្រហែលគ្រួសារអ្វីដែលរឿងគាត់បានសរសេរហ្នឹងបាទហើយ Katya គាត់បានថាតាមពិតគាត់សភៅគាត់ហ្នឹងនិយាយពាក់ព័ន្ធតែ4គ្រួសារទេប៉ុន្តែគាត់បានធ្វើការសម្ភាសក៏ដូចជាស្វែងយល់ពីគ្រួសារផ្សេងៗទៀតដែលតាក់ទងទៅនឹងការបញ្ជូនត្រឡប់ទៅស្រុកខ្មែរវិញបាទសូមអរគុណវិទ្យ
Okay, next question is how many trips do you took to Cambodia for your story to complete?
Just 2, I believe. I've been to Cambodia a total of 3 times, but for the book it was only 2. Yeah, and mostly the first trip was even before I started the book. The book kind of came out of an article I'd done for a magazine, and then I realized there was a bigger story. So I guess you could say 2 trips for the book.
Okay.
បាទខ្ញុំសូមបកជាភាសាខ្មែរតិចបាទហើយសូមអធិស្ឋានបើសិនខ្ញុំបកទៅវាខ្វះខាតដោយចំណុចណាមួយបាទព្រោះអីខ្ញុំមិនមែនអ្នកជំនាញខាងបកទេប៉ុន្តែខ្ញុំព្យាយាមឲ្យវាមានជាភាសាខ្មែរបាទលោកគូវិតគាត់បានសួរទៅ Katya ថាតើគាត់បានចំណាយពេលទៅស្រុកខ្មែរនឹងប្រហែលដងបានរៀបចំចងក្រងចេញជាសភៅនឹងឡើងហ្នឹងបាទ Katya គាត់បានមានប្រសាសន៍ថាតាមពិតគាត់ធ្លាប់ទៅធ្វើរឿងតាក់ទងទៅនឹងគេហៅថាការបញ្ជូនត្រឡប់ទៅវិញនៅពលរដ្ឋខ្មែរតាមរយៈកិច្ចការរបស់គាត់ជាអ្នកយកសារព័ត៌មាននៅក្នុងទស្សនាវដ្តីមួយប៉ុន្តែចំពោះក្នុងការសរសេរសភៅនេះជារួមគាត់បានទៅ2ដងទៀតចឹងសរុបទៅ3ដងបាទចឹងសូមអរគុណបាទ
Yeah សូមអរគុណ how do you get your funding for your project?
There wasn't really much. I kind of the whole time I was doing the book, I was working on the trip I made to Cambodia. The second one I did I'd applied for a lot of grants and I didn't get one. So I ended up just selling a lot of freelance stories while there to support it. And then the rest I was working at the same time, and it was just something I wanted to write. So I'd fit it in when I wasn't teaching or writing other stories. So that's why when people ask how long it took a couple years because I'd be doing other stuff at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
បាទលោកគូវិតគាត់បានសួរទៅ Katya ថែមទៀតថាតើគាត់បានគេហៅថាថវិកាឬក៏ធនធានពីណាដើម្បីធ្វើការចងក្រងសរសេរសភៅដែលមានឈ្មោះថាExiled from the killing field of Cambodia to California and back ហ្នឹងបាទអញ្ចឹងគាត់ថាតាមពិតគាត់ព្យាយាមធ្វើសំណើដើម្បីសុំថវិកាក្នុងការធ្វើការស្រាវជ្រាវចងក្រងទៅលើរឿងហ្នឹងដែរប៉ុន្តែលទ្ធផលគឺអត់បានជោគជ័យប៉ុន្តែដោយសារគាត់មានជំនាញខាងសារព័ត៌មានហើយគាត់ក៏បានធ្វើរឿងច្រើនក៏គាត់លក់រឿងគាត់ដែលធ្វើហ្នឹង ដោយសារគាត់ជា freelance ហើយគាត់ជាអ្នកសារព័ត៌មានបែបគេហៅថាមិនក្រុមការគ្រប់គ្រងរបស់ពេញណាអញ្ចឹងគាត់ធ្វើរឿងមកគាត់អាចលក់រឿងគាត់ទៅប្រព័ន្ធសារព័ត៌មានផ្សេងៗទៀតគាត់បានទទួលថវិកាហ្នឹងដើម្បីយកទៅចំណាយក្នុងការរៀបរៀងចងក្រងរឿងហ្នឹងរួមទាំងការធ្វើដំណើរទៅស្រុកខ្មែរផងដែរបាទសូមអរគុណ
បាទអរគុណ Yes Kru Sanghak always say the title of your book but I still want to see you hold the book so what is the title of your book
Yes. So we have Exiled from the killing fields of Cambodia to California and back.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
បាទកុំអត់តលោកវិទ្យខ្ញុំសូមបកតិចបាទលោកវិទ្យក៏អត់សុខចិត្តទេទោះបីជាគាត់ឃើញខ្ញុំប្រចាំងចំណងជើងសភៅរបស់Katya Cengel នៅលើ screen ក៏ដោយក៏គាត់នៅសួរតើចំណងជើងសភៅដែល Katya ដែលសរសេរហ្នឹងមានចំណងជើងយ៉ាងម៉េចអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំសូមបកចំណងជើងបន្តិចបាទគឺជាការបានន័យថាការជំលះចេញឬ Exile ហ្នឹងបានន័យថាជាការបញ្ជូនចេញឬក៏ការជំលះចេញបាទពីគេហៅថាកន្លែងវាលពិឃាតនៅស្រុកខ្មែរមកកាន់សហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកគឺនៅរដ្ឋ California ប៉ុន្តែចុងក្រោយនោះគឺត្រឡប់ទៅប្រទេសដើមវិញគឺស្រុកខ្មែរបាទអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំបកជាលក្ខណៈរួមបាទខ្ញុំអត់បកចំនៃបាទជាលក្ខណៈរួមបាទសូមអរគុណបាទ
សូមអរគុណOkay thank you How long does it take you to write the book and how does it feel to complete it
I think it took the first article when I wrote it was several years ago, but the book itself I think took maybe about two, maybe 3 years, but I was doing other things at the same time. And I think it was completing it is always the best thing. Actually, the best is when it comes out and you actually have the published copy because you always doubt until it's actually there. I think one of the most rewarding experiences for me was I did a signing in LA with one of the families I follow in the book. They filled the audience and there was 4 generations of that family there actually. And I presented with 2 generations and to be able to have earned their trust and to kind of celebrate that with them. It's a hard book. I mean, it talks about some difficult things, but the older woman in that family really wanted to tell her story. And so to have that opportunity, she was just, it was really meaningful to her and to the rest of the family. And so that actually, those kind of moments were just really incredible.
Thank you.
Katya, could you tell a little bit more what year you completely done your book?
Sorry, what year? It came out in 2018. So,
okay.
And I probably finished it 2017. It takes a while for it to publish, but yeah, it came out 2018.
Okay, សំណួររបស់លោកគូវិតបានសួរទៅខាសៀថាតើខាសៀគាត់ចំណាយពេលវេលាប្រហែលឆ្នាំដែរដើម្បីសរសេរសភៅហ្នឹងហើយដើម្បីបោះពុម្ពចេញផ្សាយជាផ្លូវការអញ្ចឹងខាសៀគាត់ថាតាមពិតគាត់ធ្វើរឿងជាច្រើនក្នុងពេលតែមួយអញ្ចឹងគាត់ធ្វើរឿងនេះផងហើយគាត់ឆ្លៀតពេលដើម្បីសរសេរនឹងផងអញ្ចឹងចំណាយរយៈពេលពី2ទៅ3ឆ្នាំហើយអ្វីដែលជំរុញឲ្យគាត់ក្នុងការសរសេរសភៅនេះកាន់តែទៅមុខទៀតហ្នឹងដោយសារគាត់ជួបគ្រួសារខ្មែរយើងដែលគាត់ជាមេគ្រួសមាជិកគ្រួសារដែលត្រូវបានគេកើតឡើងចំពោះគ្រួសារគាត់ជូនដល់ខាសៀទាំងអ្នកដែលចង់ប្រាប់ទាំងអ្នកសរសេរសិតតែមានឆន្ទៈសិតតែមានទឹកចិត្តក្នុងការចង់ឲ្យធ្វើរឿងហ្នឹងកើតជារូបរាងចង់ឲ្យសភៅហ្នឹងត្រូវបានសរសេរចប់ដើម្បីបោះពុម្ពផ្សាយហើយទោះបីជាសភៅហ្នឹងបានរៀបរៀងចងក្រងចប់នៅឆ្នាំ2017ក៏ដោយប៉ុន្តែទ្រាំតែរៀបចំបោះពុម្ពអីបានស្រួលបួលហ្នឹងគឺត្រូវការមួយឆ្នាំទៀតអញ្ចឹងឆ្នាំ2018ត្រូវបានបោះពុម្ពផ្សាយជាផ្លូវការបាទសូមអរគុណ
And also, do you speak the language?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the first part?
Yeah, do you live in the Cambodian community?
Do I what?
Do you live in the Cambodian community?
Actually, no. Where I live in the Central Coast, and I'm sure we have a few, but not many. So while I was doing the book, I spent a lot of time in Long Beach, and I would just make trips. And I have an aunt who lives not in Long Beach, but about a half hour away. So I'd go stay with her. Actually, one time I stayed in Long Beach with one of my sources, but usually I just stay with my aunt for a weekend or so, and then spend a lot of time in Long Beach. And then there was one or two families in the Bay Area or Stockton that I would follow as well, but mostly I just frequent trips to Long Beach.
Okay, thank you.
បាទហើយឥឡូវសំណួរបន្តទៀតនេះលោកគូវិតក៏បានសួរទៅខាត់ជាថាតើគាត់បានចំណាយពេលរស់នៅជាមួយដិតដាមជាមួយនឹងសហគមន៍ខ្មែរយើងយ៉ាងម៉េចដែរបាទតាមពិតខាត់ជាគាត់នៅខាងប៉ែកគេហៅថា Central Coast ប៉ុន្តែដោយសារសភៅនេះជំរុញឲ្យគាត់មកឡងប៊ីចជាញឹកញាប់ដើម្បីជួបជាមួយអ្នកដែលមានការពាក់ព័ន្ធនឹងសាច់រឿងហ្នឹងដើម្បីគាត់មានឱកាសសាកសួរយកព័ត៌មានដើម្បីបញ្ចូលទៅក្នុងអត្ថបទហើយរៀបចំចងក្រងជាសភៅហ្នឹងអញ្ចឹងបានគាត់ចេញចូលសហគមន៍ខ្មែរប៉ុន្តែខ្ញុំដឹងថាគាត់ចេះខ្មែរបានអត់នៅពេលដែលគាត់មានតំណែងធ្វើការជាមួយប្រជាជនខ្មែរយើងចិត្តស្និទ្ធយ៉ាងចឹងបាទទុកឲ្យលោកគូវិទ្យាអ្នកសួរបន្តបាទសូមអរគុណ
But you don't speak any word yet, right? In Khmer. Well, as long as you know some British too, you're good. Okay.
Okay. COVID, can I cut you?
Yeah.
Katya, you are warmly welcome to Mark Twain Library because even though Mark Twain Library is the Long Beach Public Library, but it seems like a one-stop shop for Cambodian community. Why? Because before COVID-19, we have plenty of program up there, such as we have a Khmer class from level 1 until up to Khmer class for traveler. You are good to attend Khmer class for traveler. And also we have bilingual story time, English and Khmer. We have telling your story in Khmer. We have computer class in Khmer. And again, we have around 5,000 Cambodian collection at the Mark Twain Library. So you are warmly welcome to join our Khmer class after the COVID-19.
I need to do that.
But let me interpret what I'm saying. Okay, ដោយសារខាត់ជាគាត់បានធ្វើការយ៉ាងជិតស្និទ្ធជាមួយសហគមន៍ខ្មែរជាពិសេសអ្នកដែលមានសាច់ញាតិឬក៏មានរឿងរ៉ាវពាក់ព័ន្ធជាមួយនឹងការគេបញ្ជូនទៅស្រុកខ្មែរវិញប៉ុន្តែគាត់ថាគាត់អត់ចេះភាសាខ្មែរទេដោយគាត់និយាយជាភាសាអង់គ្លេសទេហើយខ្ញុំយកឱកាសហ្នឹងអំពាវនាវក៏ដូចជាអញ្ជើញគាត់ដើម្បីចូលមក Mark Twain Library បើសិន COVID-19 វាលែងមានយើងស្វាគមន៍គាត់ដើម្បីឲ្យចូលមករៀនថ្នាក់ភាសាខ្មែរព្រោះយើងមានថ្នាក់ពីកម្រិតទី1រហូតដល់ខ្មែរ class សម្រាប់គេហៅថាភ្ញៀវទេសចរចង់ធ្វើដំណើរទៅស្រុកខ្មែរអីចង់យល់ពីភាសាខ្មែរជាមួយអាខានតាមតំណែងមួយជាមួយអ្នកស្រុកយើងអាចបរៀនគាត់បានហើយយើងមានកម្មវិធីខ្មែរផ្សេងៗទៀតនៅ Mark Twain Library
he froze up. Okay. Girl, you frozen up. Can you hear me?
No. Actually, because of the internet, not because of me. Okay. Because of the internet. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Yeah, go on.
Okay. So we move on to the next question. Oh, before we go, you're more than welcome to come and assist me. Teach a daily conversational English to our senior citizens. Those are fun too. Okay, moving on to the next question. What is the youngest or the oldest age that have been deported? Okay.
I want to take both of you guys up on this. I can't wait for doing things in person again after this. Yeah. It's so important. I don't recall the exact ages on that. I think the youngest would probably be, you wouldn't do a kid, so it would have to be early, like late teens or early 20s, but I don't remember hearing of any teenagers. I think more early 20s. Oldest, I do remember there was someone in their 50s, and there may have been even older than that. I'd say the majority are more kind of the middle generation. That's what I call them, but they're the ones who are 30s, 40s, or might have even been in their 20s, because the deportations have been going on a while now. But most of them were people who had come to the U.S. when they were very young. This isn't all of them, but I'd say the average one, and more males than female, but there are females, came when they were young and identify as American, were really raised here. And because of the situation, resettlement, the neighborhoods they were settled in, some of the difficulties of adjustment, the time period, very violent time in the U.S., the 1980s in the inner cities, and gangs, and then also with parents not always speaking the language or knowing how to help their children adapt. So those children, some of them ended up in gangs or other ways breaking the law, and they later were the ones who faced deportation. But they weren't deported until now. You get some deported straight after they've committed their crime, but a lot of these people then served their time. So they did their time, were released, and were actually living their lives, had jobs, had families. So they went on and to build another life, and then were deported. So they have, some people call it double jeopardy. It isn't, in fact, because it's different, but it is. In reality, it seems like a double punishment for these people.
Okay, thank you.
បាទសំណួររបស់លោកគូវិតទៅកាន់កាត់ជាថាតើអាយុចន្លោះពីប្រមាណបានថាតើអាយុក្មេងបំផុតប្រមាណអាយុចាស់បំផុតប្រមាណដែលត្រូវបានគេបញ្ជូនទៅស្រុកខ្មែរវិញចំពោះកាត់ជាគាត់មានប្រសាសន៍ថានិយាយចំទៅការបញ្ជូននេះអាយុវាអាចចាប់ពី20ឆ្នាំឡើងទៅក្មេងបំផុតហើយអាចអាយុចាប់ពី50ឆ្នាំឡើងទៅអាយុចាស់បំផុតប៉ុន្តែគាត់ថាជាមធ្យមអាយុចន្លោះពី30 40 20 30 40បាទដែលត្រូវបានជាភាគច្រើនដែលត្រូវបញ្ជូនទៅនឹងហើយពួកគាត់ភាគច្រើនដែលគាត់បានមករស់នៅសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកហ្នឹងគឺតាំងពីវ័យកុមារបាទហើយអ្វីដែលចំណុចដែលខ្ញុំកត់សម្គាល់អ្វីដែលខាសៀគាត់មានប្រសាសន៍ហ្នឹងគឺថាក្រោយមកស្រាប់តែអ្នកដែលបានន័យថាគាត់ប្រព្រឹត្តអ្វីដែលល្មើសច្បាប់អីទៅគេចាប់ទៅបញ្ជូនទៅស្រុកខ្មែរភ្លាមប៉ុន្តែពីមុនមកទៀតអ្នកដែលមានការពាក់ព័ន្ធជាមួយនឹងបទអីផ្សេងដែលត្រូវគេចាប់ហើយគេដាក់ទៅពន្ធនាគារប៉ុន្តែគាត់បានទទួលគេហៅថាទោសទៅតាមគ្រប់ចំនួនពេលវេលាដែលត្រូវចេញហើយស្រាប់តែគាត់គួរតែមានសេរីភាពព្រោះអីគាត់បានទៅជួបជុំមួយគ្រួសារគាត់ទៅធ្វើការឡើងវិញជាមួយនឹងគេឯងជាពលរដ្ឋសាមញ្ញធម្មតាគាត់បានកែខ្លួនកែអីហើយក្រោយពីដែលគាត់ចាប់ទោសនៅពន្ធនាគារហ្នឹងបែរទៅជាពួកគាត់ហ្នឹងត្រូវបានបញ្ជូនទៅស្រុកខ្មែរវិញដែរអញ្ចឹងហាក់បីដូចជាប្រព័ន្ធតុលាការហ្នឹងមានគេហៅថាការផ្ដល់ទោសទណ្ឌហ្នឹង2ដងបាទទី1ជាប់ពន្ធនាគារនៅស្រុកនៅសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកហ្នឹងចប់ហើយត្រូវបានបញ្ជូនទៅស្រុកខ្មែរម្ដងទៀតអញ្ចឹងវាហាក់ដូចជាទទួលនៅទោសទណ្ឌហ្នឹង2ដងបាទសូមអរគុណ
បាទអរគុណសូមអរគុណ Okay, once you been exiled, what are the chances that they are able to return back to the state?
And it used to be very little chance. It once you're deported, because then you have a felony on your record, the U.S. won't take you back. So it used to be like that. There have actually been several cases of deportees who have been able to return. But last I heard, I mean, we're talking at most a handful out of all those who have been deported. So it is very difficult. It requires a really good lawyer. There are some organizations who will do the lawyer part for free, but it takes a lot of time, and not all cases are eligible, and not all will work. So mostly if you're deported, it's usually for life. That's the very sad thing. It doesn't say that, but in reality, that's what happens. But we have seen there's some people fighting really hard, and we have seen several who have been able to return.
បាទសំណួរនេះល្អហើយចម្លើយក៏ល្អដែរបាទអញ្ចឹងសំណួររបស់លោកគ្រូវិទ្យទៅកាន់ខាត់ឆាថាតើក្នុងចំណោមអ្នកដែលគេបញ្ជូនទៅស្រុកខ្មែរទៅនឹងតើពួកគាត់ប្រមាណអ្នកដែលអាចមកត្រឡប់មកកាន់សហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកបានអញ្ចឹងខាត់ឆាក៏បានមានប្រសាសន៍ថាបើយើងនិយាយពីភាគរយវិញតិចមែនតើបាទភាគរយតិចមែនតើចំពោះអ្នកដែលបញ្ជូនទៅនឹងច្រើនហើយអ្នកដែលអាចបានន័យថាឈ្នះក្តីអាចត្រឡប់មកស្រុកសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកវិញហ្នឹងគឺចំនួនតិចតួចមែនតើហើយពួកគាត់បានខំធ្វើការយ៉ាងស្រសក់ស្រស្រាំជាមួយមេធាវីនៅសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកហ្នឹងដើម្បីបញ្ឈមមុខជាមួយនឹងអាជ្ញាធរធ្វើម៉េចដើម្បីគាត់មានឱកាសមករស់នៅជួបជុំជាមួយគ្រួសារនៅសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកវិញបាទប៉ុន្តែទោះបីយ៉ាងណាក៏ដោយខាជាគាត់មានប្រសាសន៍ថាភាគរយនៅតិចមែនតើបាទអញ្ចឹងសូមអរគុណបាទ
Thank you both of you are very interesting to me. Next question is how does deportation trigger pain in the Khmer family?
I think that was one of the reasons I really wanted to write this book was the bigger effects, because some people say, well, we're deporting someone, we get rid of the problem or something, but they don't realize how it affects the whole family and how it affects the community. And especially people think about the children, because a lot of the people being deported have children who are US citizens, and so those children now are going to grow up without a parent. Also, economically, they're going to be behind because the income that parent weren't earning in the US is taken from them. And it continues the separation of families. So during the genocide, these families, the Khmer Rouge, that was one of the things they did was separate families. And so you're continuing this trauma in these families of separating them. And then so those are the children who will grow up without a parent. And then people sometimes don't think about this, but the parents, the elderly parents, they're losing an adult child. But it's more than that, because they often lost that child under the Khmer Rouge. They were separated. And so to be separated again, one of the mothers in the book, one of the mothers I was following, she had nightmares about losing her children to this day from being separated from there. And so when she was facing her adult daughter might be taken from her again, it just brought back all of those memories, all of that trauma, and was incredibly hard for her. Also, the reality is it's expensive to fly to Cambodia. So the families to be able to visit, expense, time, and also health-wise. Some of these people, if they have the money, they're quite old in their health. The flights are very long and not easy on someone who is older. So for many of the older generation, it's bye to their child forever. One of the women actually, she had to say goodbye to her mom I think it was her mom was dying in a hospital in the US and she was in Phnom Penh and had to just through video say goodbye to her. So it's really and so you're continuing that separation in these families.
Okay, ពេលដែលខ្ញុំស្ដាប់រឿងនេះមុនបកចង់ស្រក់ទឹកភ្នែកបាទឬកំសត់ពេកបាទលោកគូវិតគាត់បានសួរថាតើការដែលបញ្ជូនពលរដ្ឋខ្មែរអាមេរិកកាំងត្រឡប់ទៅស្រុកកំណើតដែលគាត់មិនបានទាំងដឹងតែស្រុកកំណើតរបស់គាត់នឹងយ៉ាងម៉េចផងព្រោះគាត់ពេលខ្លះគាត់កើតនៅជំរំពេលខ្លះគាត់កើតនៅក្មេងនៅពេលដែលគាត់មកដល់សហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកគឺនៅក្មេងឡើយអញ្ចឹងសិនធាគាត់បានគិតជាគាត់បានមានប្រសាសន៍ថានេះគឺជាការអនុត្តធម៌បំផុតបាទនៅពេលដែលគាត់បានឱកាសមកទឹកដីសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកហើយគាត់ត្រូវបានគេបញ្ជូនទៅកាន់ស្រុកខ្មែរវិញដោយសារគាត់មានឈាមជ័រគាត់មានយាយតាដូនតាជាខ្មែរហ្នឹងត្រូវបានគេបញ្ជូនទៅស្រុកខ្មែរវិញហើយបើយើងនិយាយមើលគេហៅថាវិបត្តិនៃគ្រួសារត្រួសហ្នឹងមានដូចជាទី1ប្តីប្រពន្ធកូនត្រូវបានឃ្លាតឆ្ងាយពីឪពុកម្ដាយឬក៏ ញាតិមិត្តគ្រួសារទាំងមូលទី2អ្នកដែលត្រូវគេបញ្ជូនទៅភាគច្រើនជាបុរសបាទហើយក្នុងនោះក៏មានស្ត្រីដែរអញ្ចឹងបុរសគឺជាកម្លាំងស្នូលក្នុងការរកប្រាក់ចំណូលយកមកផ្គត់ផ្គង់ដោះស្រាយបញ្ហាជីវភាពអញ្ចឹងធ្វើឲ្យគ្រួសារនេះកាន់តែទី1មានទុក្ខនៅពេលដែលបាត់បង់សមាជិកគ្រួសារទី2ធ្វើឲ្យមានបញ្ហាសេដ្ឋកិច្ចក្នុងគ្រួសារដោយសារអ្នកដែលមានរោចំណូលមានកម្លាំងប្រលាំងរោចំណូលហ្នឹងត្រូវបានចាក់ចេញពីក្រុមគ្រួសារដោយសារគេបញ្ជូនទៅវិញហើយចំណុចមួយនេះខ្ញុំមានការអាណិតធម៌មែនទែនបាទគាត់បានលើកឡើងថាខាត់ជាក៏បានលើកឡើងថាពួកគាត់ភាគច្រើនសិតតែគេហៅថាឆ្លងកាត់ពីកុមារភាពទោះបីជាគាត់មិនបានដឹងក្នុងរបបបល័យពូជសាសន៍ក៏ដោយប៉ុន្តែគ្រួសារគាត់បានឆ្លងកាត់ហើយមានពួកគាត់ធ្វើឲ្យរំលឹកដល់ក្រុមគ្រួសារគាត់ពីសម័យបល័យពូជសាសន៍ប៉ុលពតនឹងត្រូវបានអង្គការគេបានចាប់យកក្មេងយកបងប្អូនឪពុកម្ដាយយកចាក់ចេញពីគ្រួសារបំបែកចេញពីគ្រួសារហើយនេះហើយដែលគឺជាហាក់ដូចជាពួកគាត់ទទួលរងទុក្ខរងទោសលើកទី2នៅពេលដែលគេយកសមាជិកគ្រួសារបញ្ជូនទៅស្រុកខ្មែរវិញធ្វើឲ្យនឹកឃើញដល់ពីសម័យបល័យពូជសាសន៍ប៉ុលពតហ្នឹងដែលគេយកសមាជិកគ្រួសារយកទៅធ្វើបាបឬក៏យកទៅសម្លាប់ឬក៏យកទៅចាក់ចេញពីគ្រួសារបំបែកគ្រួសារចេញពីគ្នាហើយអ្វីដែលរឿងរ៉ាវគួរឲ្យអាណិតធម៌មួយទៀតហ្នឹងមានអ្នកដែលត្រូវបានបញ្ជូនម្នាក់នៅពេលដែលម្ដាយគាត់ឈឺធ្ងន់នៅមន្ទីរពេទ្យសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកនេះគាត់អត់មានឱកាសដើម្បីបានឃើញមុខម្ដាយសម្រាប់គេហៅថានាទីចុងក្រោយទេគាត់បានការឃើញតាមលក្ខណៈគេហៅថាអាចជា Skype ឬក៏ Facebook អាចមើលរូបពីចម្ងាយតាមរយៈទូរស័ព្ទនៅពេលដែលម្ដាយរៀបនឹងផុតដង្ហើមមកអញ្ចឹងនេះគឺជាអាណិតធម៌បំផុតសម្រាប់គេហៅថាអ្នកដែលត្រូវបានគេបញ្ជូនយកទៅស្រុកខ្មែរវិញបាទហើយបើសិនយើងគិតថាជាទុកសោកវិញគាត់ទុកសោកហ្នឹងគឺផ្ទួនគ្នាបាទសូមអរគុណបាទ
សូមអរគុណ thank you wow what a powerful question and also powerful answer very heartfelt thank you okay next question is how serious is the crime considered considered to be a deportation crime? How serious the crime have to be a deportation crime?
That's really interesting because basically under the laws, there were laws that came into effect in 1996 that made it's so complicated and I get it wrong sometimes. For non-citizens, a felony is different than a citizen. So what people are being deported for is called a felony, but for a citizen, it wouldn't be a felony. So with some of the crimes, one of the women writing bad checks, joyriding, drugs is a big one, and often not that large of amounts, and often marijuana. Also murder. So you've got a large realm, but usually the sentence had to be, so it has to be a felony, but again, they're things that are felonies that are not felonies for U.S. citizens. And usually they say your sentence has to have been for at least a year, but there were some tricky things around that. Legal stuff and immigration laws, incredibly complicated. Basically, some laws were changed in 1996 that made this possible in general, that changed. These things took away judges' discretion, so they don't have as much flexibility on individual cases. And so you do get these small nonviolent crimes. There are a lot deported for nonviolent crimes.
បាទលោកគូវិតគាត់បានសួរទៅខាត់ជាថាតើទោសទណ្ឌអីខ្លះប្រភេទអីខ្លះដែលខាងអាជ្ញាធរសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកហ្នឹងគេដល់ថ្នាក់បញ្ជូនអ្នកដែលមានការពាក់ព័ន្ធទៅលើបទឧក្រិដ្ឋហ្នឹងទៅស្រុកខ្មែរចំពោះខាត់ជាគាត់ថាបញ្ហាច្បាប់នៃការគេហៅថាតកតងទៅនឹងអន្តោប្រវេសន៍តកតងទៅនឹងច្បាប់ទម្លាប់តុលាការហ្នឹងដូចជាមានការស្មុគស្មាញបន្តិចប៉ុន្តែគាត់បាននិយាយទៅលើពីចំណុចទី1 បើសិនអ្នកដែលប្រព្រឹត្តនឹងជាពលរដ្ឋអាមេរិកដែលមានសញ្ជាតិអាមេរិកគេនឹងមិនបញ្ជូនទៅស្រុកណាទេបាទគាត់ត្រូវទទួលទោសនៅស្រុកអាមេរិកតែម្ដងប៉ុន្តែបើសិនយើងអត់ទាន់មានសញ្ជាតិយើងគេហៅ non citizen អាហ្នឹងឧបមាថាយើងប្រភពដើមយើងដូនតាយើងនៅពីណាយើងមកពីណាហ្នឹងគឺគេបញ្ជូនទៅវិញហើយបាទអញ្ចឹងតាមអ្វីដែល Katya គាត់មានប្រសាសន៍ហ្នឹងគឺអ្នកដែលគេបញ្ជូនទៅស្រុកកំណើតវិញតាមរយៈគេធ្វើ deportation ហ្នឹងគឺសិតតែទៅអ្នកអត់ទាន់មានសញ្ជាតិអាមេរិកបាទហើយច្បាប់តាក់ទងនៅឆ្នាំ1996ហ្នឹងវាហាក់បីដូចជាវាពិបាកយល់ព្រោះអីគាត់ជាអ្នកសារព័ត៌មានដែរអញ្ចឹងគាត់ប្រហែលជាអ្នកច្បាប់ទេហើយយើងក៏មិនហ៊ានស៊ីជម្រៅតាក់ទងបញ្ហាហ្នឹងដែរហើយខ្ញុំក៏អត់យល់ដែរអត់មិនចង់បកស្រាយអីក្រៅពីហ្នឹងទេបាទអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំមានប៉ុណ្្នឹងបាទសូមអរគុណ
បាទសូមអរគុណ thank you okay our next question is can you explain what is the policy or law regarding deportation and also why is more Cambodia being deported than Vietnamese?
So it starts with those 1996 laws that are for any non-citizen. So it would be Cambodians, Vietnamese, any of those. But they couldn't actually deport Cambodians until Cambodia agreed to accept them. And so later, I think it was 2003, they call it a memorandum of understanding. And that's between Cambodia and the US. And that's when they say Cambodia agrees to take deportees. Cambodia doesn't have a whole lot of choice in the matter because there was a push a couple of years ago to get Cambodia to redo this. But as soon as Cambodia starts doing that, the US just says, okay, well, we won't give visas to Cambodians coming here to work. So Cambodia doesn't have as much power in this relationship. Vietnam's memorandum says that they'll only accept deportees who came to the US, I believe it's after the 90s, basically those who came as refugees following the war in Vietnam are excluded then. And so you only have that smaller, so that is one reason why you weren't seeing as many Vietnamese being deported. Under Trump, he has actually deported some who came before that date. I don't understand how that happens. One thing is it's a memorandum of understanding, so I guess that's different than it's an agreement versus a law, but officially he's not supposed to, but he has. But it's easier with Cambodia because there's no restriction on that date.
បាទតាក់ទងទៅនឹងសំណួរនឹងចម្លើយនេះវា sensitive បន្តិចអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំគាត់និយាយជារួមបាទលោកគ្រូវិទ្យក៏បានមានប្រសាសន៍ថាតើនៅសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកនឹងយោងទៅលើច្បាប់ឬក៏ធម្មនុញ្ញអីក្នុងការបញ្ជូនអ្នកដែលមានបទឧក្រិដ្ឋផ្សេងៗហ្នឹងទៅកាន់ប្រទេសដើមកំណើតវិញចំពោះអ្នកស្រី Katya គាត់ថាវាខ្ញុំសូមបកខ្លីទី1វាស៊ីសងទៅលើគេហៅថា MOU កិច្ចព្រមព្រៀងរវាងរដ្ឋាភិបាលទាំងពីរបាទបើសិនរដ្ឋាភិបាលមានការព្រមព្រៀងនឹងទទួលយកអ្នកដែលគេត្រូវបញ្ជូនទៅវិញអាហ្នឹងគេមានសិទ្ធិក្នុងការបញ្ជូនទៅលឿនបាទហើយវាមានការងាយស្រួលប៉ុន្តែចំពោះរដ្ឋាភិបាលខ្លះគាត់ក៏មានការកំហិតដែរបាទគឺគាត់មិនចេះថាទទួលឬក៏គាត់មានគេហៅថាការនិយាយគ្នាដោយមានលក្ខខណ្ឌអីផ្សេងៗទៀតដល់ពេលអញ្ចឹងឃើញឲ្យយើងមើលឃើញជនជាតិខ្លះមានការបញ្ជូនទៅវិញហ្នឹងមានចំនួនតិចជាងប្រជាជនយើងបាទអញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំនិយាយជារួមប៉ុណ្្នឹងបាទសូមអរគុណ
បាទសូមអរគុណOkay wow really interesting and thank you for all the questions we're about to come to an end so where can our viewer or fan get their hand on your book Ms. Katya
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Oh, my favorite question is when you ask where you can get it. So the Long Beach Library does have one copy, and I don't know how that works with COVID, but you can also buy it at pretty much any bookstore. It's a known distributor. So if the bookstore doesn't have it, you can order it, and a lot of bookstores are delivering now. You can get it on Amazon. There is a Kindle version. There isn't an audio version yet, but hoping for one of those soon. But pretty much anywhere you want to, you could get it.
Okay.
I'll hold it up again.
Okay.
Uh.
They can see the back. Oh, okay. Okay.
បាទចូលដល់សំណួរចុងក្រោយហើយក៏ជាសំណួរមួយសម្រាប់កម្មវិធីរបស់យើងហើយនឹងដែរហើយក៏ជា Katya គាត់សប្បាយចិត្តនឹងឆ្លើយនឹងសំណួរនេះជាងគេព្រោះអីគាត់ថាសំណួរនេះដែលជាសំណួរដែលគាត់ចង់ឲ្យអ្នកសួរបានច្រើនបាទអញ្ចឹងសំណួរនោះក៏បានសួរថាតើប្រិយមិត្តក៏ដូចជាអ្នកដែលចង់អានសភៅ Katya ហ្នឹងតើគាត់អាចរកសភៅហ្នឹងតាមរយៈអីឬក៏តាមវិធីណាអញ្ចឹងសម្រាប់ពលរដ្ឋនៅទីក្រុង Long Beach នៅសហគមន៍ខ្មែរនៅទីក្រុង Long Beach អាចអញ្ជើញទៅ Mark Twain Library បាទតាមខ្ញុំដឹង Katya គាត់បានមក copy ទៅ Mark Twain Library នៅកណ្ដាលក្រុងខ្មែរអញ្ចឹងដោយសារ COVID-19 ខ្ញុំមិនដឹងថាតើគេបើកឬក៏មិនទាន់បើកទេឬក៏យ៉ាងម៉េចឬក៏យើងអាចខ្ចីបានតាមយ៉ាងម៉េចសូមមើលទៅ website របស់ Mark Twain Library ដើម្បីសួរថាតើសភៅហ្នឹងយើងអាចខ្ចីបានអត់បាទដោយសារក្នុងដំណាក់កាល COVID-19 នេះគេ close all the series facility នៅឡើយទេបាទប៉ុន្តែឥឡូវឮគេថាមាន try through pick up អីចឹងអញ្ចឹងបើសិនពុកម៉ែពូមីងបងប្អូនប្រិយមិត្តនៅទីក្រុង Long Beach នៅសហគមន៍ខ្មែរចង់អានសភៅ Katya តាក់ទងទៅនឹង deportation ហ្នឹងសូមតាក់ទងមើលទៅ website របស់ Long Beach Public Library ហើយសភៅហ្នឹងគឺដាក់នៅក្នុង Mark Twain Library បាទហើយចំណុចបន្តទៀតហ្នឹងអាចមើលនៅក្នុង Amazon អាច order តាម Amazon តាម bookstore ខ្លះគេអាចផ្ដល់គេហៅថា home delivery ហើយមានគេហៅថា Kindle version បាទយើងអាចអាន online ហើយចំពោះ audio book ហ្នឹងអត់ទាន់មានដែរទេបាទហើយ Katya don't forget to give us your book for our reading club.
Okay, thank you. I have one last question. Do you have any final thought for our viewers that I failed to ask?
I think the big thing is to thank the Cambodian American community for trusting me to tell this story, because I could not write this book without the families and the individuals who were willing to be honest with me and tell me some very painful things for them. So I'm very grateful that they trusted me and honored. And I think it's a very strong community. It has endured so much, and I just hope that it'll get through this as it has so many other things. There's a lot of strength in that community, and I love seeing what you guys are doing for each other, like with this program. It's just so great to see all the things in you. When we were talking before the show, you were telling me what you do, not just for the Cambodian community, but other communities. So the involvement of some Cambodian Americans is really strong, and I think that is a great thing to see.
បាទតាមពិតខ្ញុំស្មានថាលោក Vith គាត់បញ្ចប់សំណួរមុនហើយប៉ុន្តែឥឡូវគាត់មានសំណួរចុងក្រោយមួយទៀតចង់ឲ្យ Katya Cengel ហ្នឹងបង្ហាញពីគេហៅថាពាក្យពេចន៍ទៅកាន់សហគមន៍ខ្មែរមានសារទៅកាន់សហគមន៍ខ្មែរអញ្ចឹង Katya គាត់ថាទីមួយគាត់សូមថ្លែងអំណរគុណយ៉ាងជ្រាលជ្រៅចំពោះសហគមន៍ខ្មែរជាពិសេសអ្នកដែលមានការពាក់ព័ន្ធសមាជិកគ្រួសារឬក៏អ្នកដែលមានគ្រួសារដែលមានការពាក់ព័ន្ធដែលតាក់ទងទៅនឹងការ deportation នឹងការគេបញ្ជូនទៅកាន់ស្រុកខ្មែរវិញហ្នឹងគាត់មានការទុកចិត្តគាត់ផ្ដល់នៅការសហការគាត់ផ្ដល់នៅសាច់រឿងដើម្បីឲ្យគាត់យកទៅចងក្រងរៀងជាសភៅនឹងឡើងហើយគាត់មើលឃើញថាសហគមន៍ខ្មែរយើងនៅជាពិសេសនៅទីក្រុង Long Beach មានភាពមាំទាំហើយគាត់ក៏ជាឱកាសហ្នឹងសរសើរកម្មវិធីរបស់យើងដែរដែលយើងបានរៀបចំ community broadcasting platform ហ្នឹងដើម្បីក្នុងការ reach out ដើម្បីផ្សាយទៅកាន់ផ្សាយក៏ដូចជាតំណែងតំណងទៅកាន់សហគមន៍ខ្មែរនៅទីក្រុង Long Beach ក៏ដូចជាសហគមន៍ខ្មែរនៅទូទាំងសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិករួមទាំងសហគមន៍ខ្មែរនៅប្រទេសផ្សេងៗក៏ដូចជាសហគមន៍ខ្មែរនៅស្រុកខ្មែរតែម្ដង ហើយគាត់មានការពេញចិត្តពេញថ្លើមហើយយើងគិតថាក្នុងនាមយើងជាអ្នករៀបចំការផ្សព្វផ្សាយនេះជាមួយលោក Vith យើងនឹងបន្តសហការជាមួយ Katya ថែមទៀតថាតើយើងត្រូវធ្វើអីទៀតដើម្បីជួយ promote សភៅរបស់គាត់នៅក្នុងសហគមន៍ខ្មែរយើង so I just want to Katya beside my interpretation what Vith and you respond to him I just edit that so our community broadcasting platform warmly welcome to consider your book to join our reading club. Yeah, when we receive your paperback, your books, so then we can decide and we can prepare the schedule for our reading club. Yeah, so if you don't mind, if you want our community broadcasting platform to read your book through this platform, please send us a few copies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, once again, I appreciate your time, Miss Katya. I deeply appreciate that you wrote this book because you're speaking to my generation. Like I say, I come from this is a photo of me in Kaidang with my family. So when I see you wrote this book, it's deeply touched my heart. And this book right here is going to be a treasure for the future generation to tell the story, to keep the story, and to continue on that we came from a struggle. So to have somebody wrote it, I deeply appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Let me interpret it first. លោក Vith បានឆ្លៀតឱកាសនេះគាត់សូមថ្លែងអំណរគុណ Katya យ៉ាងជ្រាលជ្រៅចំពោះការចំណាយពេលវេលារបស់ Katya ក្នុងការចងក្រងសភៅដ៏មានតម្លៃនេះសម្រាប់ឲ្យសហគមន៍ខ្មែរយើងទាំងនៅសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកទាំងនៅសហគមន៍ទូទាំងគ្រប់កន្លែងទាំងនៅស្រុកខ្មែរផងបានដឹងពីដំណើរនៃការគេហៅថាបញ្ជូនខ្មែរយើងទៅកាន់គេហៅថាស្រុកកំណើតវិញនៅពេលដែលគាត់មានបញ្ហាអីនៅសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកហ្នឹងអញ្ចឹងសភៅហ្នឹងដែលមានចំណងជើងថា Exiled from a Killing Field of Cambodia to California and back អញ្ចឹងលោក Vith គិតថាសភៅនេះវាមានតម្លៃណាស់សម្រាប់ខ្មែរយើងយកទៅសិក្សាស្វែងយល់ដើម្បីធ្វើការប្រុងប្រយ័ត្នហើយជៀសវាងនៅការឲ្យគេធ្វើការបញ្ជូនទៅស្រុកខ្មែរវិញព្រោះអីដោយអ្វីដែលយើងបានស្ដាប់ក្នុងកិច្ចសម្ភាសជាមួយនឹង Katya រួចហើយយើងមានតែទទួលទុកសោកទាំងសងខាងទាំងអ្នកដែលត្រូវគេបញ្ជូនទៅស្រុកខ្មែរវិញទាំងគ្រួសារដែលនៅសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកហ្នឹងមានការប្រត់ប្រាស់នារីគ្នាធ្វើឲ្យយើងនឹកឃើញដល់ពីសម័យប៉ុលពតបាទ Katya, please, your floor.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Anything else you want to add up, please?
I think I've exercised you so much on this. No, thank you. I'm just very grateful to be here, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for the time, definitely.
But so again, Katya, we also would like to use this platform to showcase your book in order to get the message across to a Cambodian community. So when we go through your book regarding our reading club, maybe I try to provide some interpretation or translation into Khmer in order to get our elderly understand what is going on with your book. I try my best to do so. Yeah. And just now, if I missed some interpretation, please forgive me because I'm really not a professional interpreter. I do my best.
Actually, my publisher had been looking for a Khmer publisher, but we hadn't found one yet. So if anyone has ideas, we're open to it because I think that would be great to have it translated and published and translated to Khmer and published.
Katya, thank you for your kind of bringing this to our attention. So if your book translated into Cambodian language is might be gonna go to deeper to our community because again, as you may know, our Cambodian community in Long Beach we have a language barrier. I mean, the younger generation they do not speak much Cambodian language, while the older generation they do not speak much English. So it more reach out to our community, different generation if you have like English and Khmer versions. So we gonna try to find out who is the firm or who is the right person in order to help you to translate into Cambodian language. So we're gonna keep in touch. We're gonna provide you detailed information later on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It's definitely, I learned a lot. I definitely would like you to come onto our platform and continue on to be a part of us, because you speak Khmer or not, you are a part of us now.
And also, as I talked earlier regarding, I would like to promote not just only the Cambodian authors. Our platform is not just only try to promote the Cambodian author. We also try to promote all the people come from different background, different nationality, whoever written about our Cambodian people, our Cambodian society. So. Maybe next program we're gonna invite you to meet with our Cambodian author for on this platform. Hope you're gonna spare your valuable time to join us for next program. Thank you in advance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so, okay,
Bye bye.
Bàសូមជម្រាបសួរទៅដល់ជនរួមជាតិក៏ដូចជាប្រិយមិត្តក្នុងនិងក្រៅប្រទេសជាពិសេសចំពោះលោកយាយលោកតាពុកម៉ែពូមីងបងប្អូននៅសហគមន៍ខ្មែរនៅទីក្រុង Long Beach រដ្ឋ California បាទកម្មវិធីដែលយើងធ្វើការសម្ភាសជាមួយនឹងអ្នកនិពន្ធឈ្មោះ Katya Cengel ដែលគាត់បានចងក្រងសៀវភៅមួយដែលតាក់ទងទៅនឹងពលរដ្ឋខ្មែរអាមេរិកកាំងយើងដែលត្រូវគេបានបញ្ជូនទៅកាន់ស្រុកខ្មែរវិញដែលមានចំណងជើងថា Exiled from the Killing Field of Cambodia to California and back ចឹងប្រិយមិត្តក៏ដូចជាពុកម៉ែពូមីងបងប្អូនបានទទួលស្ដាប់នៅកិច្ចសម្ភាសន៍រវាងលោកគ្រូវិទ្យជាមួយនឹងអ្នកស្រី Katya Cengel រួចហើយខ្ញុំក៏បានធ្វើការបកប្រែខ្លះតាក់ទងទៅនឹងកិច្ចសម្ភាសន៍នឹងដែរហើយបើសិនមានការលើសលួសខ្វះខាតដោយប្រការណាមួយសូមមេត្តាខន្តីអភ័យទោសបាទហើយកម្មវិធីរបស់យើងនឹងអញ្ជើញគាត់ដើម្បីមកចូលរួមជួបជាមួយនឹងអ្នកនិពន្ធខ្មែរយើងដើម្បីក្នុងការផ្លាស់ប្ដូរនៅទស្សនៈក៏ដូចជាបទពិសោធន៍ធ្វើយ៉ាងម៉េចយើងរួមគ្នាគិតរួមគ្នាគូយើងមិនប្រកាន់ថាជាតិសាសន៍ណាទេឲ្យតែគេចូលរួមចំណែកក្នុងការចង់ធ្វើឲ្យមានការផ្លាស់ប្ដូរមុខមាត់សហគមន៍យើងជាតិសាសន៍យើងស្វាគមន៍បាទអញ្ចឹងកម្មវិធីរបស់យើងបានមកដល់ទីបញ្ចប់សូមគ្រប់ជូនពរទៅដល់អ្នកស្រី Katya Cengel លោកគ្រូវិទ្យក៏ដូចជាជនរួមជាតិក្នុងនិងក្រៅប្រទេសប្រិយមិត្តក៏ដូចជាពុកម៉ែពូមីងបងប្អូននៅសហគមន៍ខ្មែរនៅទីក្រុង Long Beach រដ្ឋ California សូមប្រកបទៅដោយពុទ្ធពរទាំង4ប្រការហើយសូមបរិវិជាឆ្ងាយនៅការឆ្លងពី COVID-19 ដោយសារ COVID-19 នេះវាមិនទាន់ឃ្លាតឆ្ងាយរលាយចាក់ចេញពីភពផែនដីយើងនៅឡើយទេបាទអញ្ចឹងកម្មវិធីរបស់យើងបានមកដល់ទីបញ្ចប់សូមអរគុណសូមជម្រាបលាបាទ